It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'm your host this morning. I appreciate you joining with us. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to educate and inform yourself. I'm going to hammer 4 hard-hitting topics this morning, including the Cato Institute's testimony yesterday in front of Congress, in which the individual from Cato came right out and said what everybody knows, but everybody's afraid to say. The people can overthrow their government when their government is operating lawlessly. Thank goodness somebody had the courage of their convictions to stand up and say the truth. I'm going to actually let you hear it in a moment, but I'll tell you what, this is a turning point for American patriots, and I want you to remember it because this is going to be an important step in the right direction to restoring this nation. Everybody else, there were 4 panelists there, and the other 3 were mealy-mouthed, nonsensical answers, and this guy came right out and said, hey, the way this president is operating, you are living on borrowed time. Our second topic this morning is going to be Obamacare security and how it's led us to a national crisis. The fix is in. However, it's the wrong kind of fix. The truth is that the people who are reviewing this website fix, if you will, are very clearly telling us that this website is so dangerous for you to input your information into, you are leaving yourself wide open. You may as well drive down the road with a million business cards through a busy city and just start throwing your personal information out the window. Your name, your address, your income, your social security number, everything needed to make you to cause identity fraud and for you to be hacked into, including your own computer, is wide open for hackers, not to mention the fact that the government is actually transmitting your information to pretty much anybody they want. And you're left with, and by the way, they're not required to tell you if they've been hacked. The state exchanges are. There are 14 state exchanges. If they get hacked, they're required by law to notify you that your information's been stolen. The federal government has given themselves a pass on that regulation. Ladies and gentlemen, this thing is so out of control, operating in such a lawless fashion, it's amazing to me that the American people have not literally risen up and marched on Washington with torches and pitchforks demanding the resignation of this guy in office. This is completely outside the scope of anything that this government or this nation has ever withstood before. We are operating literally now as a dictatorial police state. And you're going to hear me make some very, very strong charges regarding this. But I got to tell you, it is time for Americans to stand up and say, we have had enough. Our third topic this morning, immigration. Is immigration going to be the next act of treason? John Boehner has just hired the person who is responsible, and she's a longtime advocate of immigration. And he's hired her to be his new staff relating to immigration issues. And word is out that what he's going to do is he's going to wait until after all of the people have registered to run in the primaries in 2014. And the minute that window is closed, he's then going to put up immigration for a vote. His idea is if he puts it up before that, a bunch of people will rise up and try to run against him and everybody else in Congress who's going to support it, like Cantor and McCain and all the rest of these traitors. And so he's going to wait until right after the registration period is closed. Then he's going to throw this out for a vote. I'll tell you what, I am so sick and tired of dirty tricks, skullduggery, carpetbagging, two-bit thieving, conniving scumbags in Congress who are actually working actively to betray this nation. I've had it, and you should too. Our fourth topic, and this one's a very important one. Do not miss this discussion by Rand Paul. Freedom for security. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been trading freedom for security for a long time now. It's been endemic and it is systemic in our system. You have been taught that it's okay to do. You've been warned by our founders never to allow it to happen. And now Rand Paul has come right out and said the truth. That freedom for security is a suicide pact. It's a suicide pact for our nation. He didn't use the word suicide pact. Those are mine. But when you hear what he does actually have to say, you're going to be blown away. The truth of the matter is, we have allowed our nation to descend into lawlessness, thuggery, thugocracy, corporatocracy. We allow corporations to rule and buy and sell our Congress like there's so much chattel. They, in turn, apply the force of the police power against us to demand and force us to do things that are in the corporation's best interest that they've been paid to implement on us. Ladies and gentlemen, this is actually treason. Go look up the word treason. Don't tell me I use it too much. You go look it up and then start actually using it, because that is the way it should be used. These people are betraying us. They are betraying everything that we stand for in this country. And I, for one, have had it, and I'm encouraging you to educate yourself, inform yourself, recognize what you see when you see it, and then take action against it. We are very, very close, folks, to the boiling point here. This volcano is rumbling. Smoke's been spewing out of this thing for a long time. And I'm going to tell you something. It's not going to be too much longer before you must make a choice. You've got to get off the fence. You must say, I'm going to either do something for our nation and preserve liberty and freedom for the future generations, including my own, or I'm going to sit down and I'm going to accept slavery quietly. Frankly, if you're of that ilk, then I really have nothing further to discuss with you. All right, I'm going to tackle our first topic this morning because this is an important one. This guy from the Cato Institute literally came out, and during a congressional committee hearing about the constitutional limits that are imposed on the presidency and the actions that Barack Obama has taken in disregard of those laws regarding the implementation of Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act, they had 4 panelists up there. And it's amazing what these people actually said. One of them is actually a Democratic supporter of Obamacare. And he came right out and made it very clear that this thing is out of control. But more importantly, Michael Cannon from the Cato Institute, he's the Director of Health Policy Studies. He came out and made a very clear statement. He was asked directly by the committee to explain what the course of action should be for America as we move forward and these unconstitutional, lawless acts continue by the imperialistic president we now have in office. Here's what he said. There is one last thing to which the people can resort if the government does not respect the restraints that the Constitution places on our government. Abraham Lincoln talked about our right to alter our government or our revolutionary right to overthrow it. That is not something that anyone wants to contemplate. If the people come to believe that the government is no longer constrained by the laws, then they will conclude that neither are they. That is a very dangerous sort of thing for the president to do, to wantonly ignore the laws, to try to impose obligation upon people that the legislature did not approve. Ladies and gentlemen, this was stated in a congressional hearing. It's in the congressional record. I got to tell you, even, the idea that we must take our nation back, regardless of what we have to do to accomplish that task, is actually now mainstream conversation. Oh, you can bet they're flipping out right now this morning in the annals of power. In the White Towers in D.C., in the Fort Meade and the NSA, the FBI, they're all having kittens. You bet. The DHS, they're scrambling having meetings this morning after this statement. And mark my words, this is a turning point for America. I want you to actually hear it yourself. It's about a 5-minute discussion. And if you're watching this on video, I know it's boring. You're going to have to watch me watching this. I promise, by the way, we're working on a solution to be able to actually incorporate screenshots into this so that you'll be able to see it instead of having to watch me watch it. But we're working on that over the course of the week. By Monday, I think we'll have it resolved. But the point is simply this. This is an important aspect of where we stand in this nation. And I got to tell you, the patriots that are out there that are hiding in the shadows because they're afraid, it is time for you to step up and arise, to be counted. It is time for you to be fierce, to be fearless. It is time for you to be courageous. And it is time for you to speak out, even when your voice shakes with fear. I'm telling you, we have reached the culmination, the point where we can no longer allow this nation to continue to go on in the fashion in which we've been allowing things to move. We have reached a very, very dangerous point in our nation where we are now having to make decisions about whether or not we are going to take our nation back or allow it to descend into total and utter chaos. You know, you hear all the time about people who are concerned about anarchy and things like that. This is anarchy. It is nothing different. We are now living in a thugocracy. This government and this president who blatantly, lawlessly ignores everything that the government, everything that the nation stands for. This stuff is so totally out of control, folks. I really don't know how many more ways we can slice the bread. I mean, it's time that we rose up and recognized exactly what we're seeing and what we're doing. We really have reached a point in which we can no longer continue this path. For whatever reason, this video is not playing, and I apologize. I wanted you to hear this whole thing. I'm very frustrated that it's not functioning because I just watched it. Essentially, here's the long and the short of it. You know, we've talked about a lot of ways to accomplish this. I've written an article out there which is entitled, it's on America's Voice now, and you can go find it if you're not familiar with it. It's entitled "The Plan to Take Back America. Place all state and federal capitals under civil disobedience siege." And I've advocated for a long time now for a peaceful, massive civil disobedience siege. And note the words and mark my words when I say peaceful. I'm not looking for an armed revolt here, and I don't think we need to go there. I don't think we need to invoke the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is the founders' understanding of the principles and the concepts of mutually assured destruction. I say that because our founders didn't have nuclear weapons at the time. But the idea that, Russia throws 10,000 and we throw 10,000 and, boom, everybody's wiped out, that's the idea of mutually assured destruction. And it was to act as a deterrent against anybody getting reckless with a nuclear weapon. Well, in the founders' day, they understood that the Second Amendment was, in that case, the equivalent, if you will, of mutually assured destruction. In order for the American population to descend to the point where we would have to use force of arms to retake our nation, it would destroy and dissolve our union. It would leave a wound that would be unimaginably raw and open for perhaps hundreds of years. In fact, the proof is, ladies and gentlemen, that during the Civil War, which occurred, well over 150 years ago, we are still sitting here having the same issues again. Here we are. The Civil War was about states' rights. Forget all that nonsense that was pumped into your mind and the propaganda that you were fed that it was about slavery. Slavery was an afterthought in the Civil War. It was all about states' rights. And it was about the federal government utilizing overbearing pressure and abusing the states that were producing goods that they were benefiting the North while the South paid all the dues and the fees. And the simple truth is, we are here again in this situation, but our constitutional crisis now is far greater than it ever was during the Civil War. And yet those wounds are still open 150 years later. We're not vastly far from that period again. And I'm encouraging you to recognize the difference. There are a couple of things that we can do. One, I encourage and I applaud the idea of a massive civil disobedience. I would love to see America do an Egyptian moment where 20, 30 million Americans march on Washington and state capitals and conduct a sit-in and say, that's it, we're not leaving until you do. And we've got a group in the Batwings who are sitting here waiting to replace the senators and the Congress and the administrative agency heads and the president and the judges. And the truth is, that takes a lot of coordination. And it's going to take a lot of money to put that together, because people have to be found, they have to be qualified, they have to be vetted, they have to be interviewed. You're talking about a significant change. We need 5,000 people, qualified, vetted, and approved, to fill those slots. There's also been talk of the Convention of the States in utilizing Article 5 to implement constitutional measures and constitutional changes that would, and Mark Levin famously just recently wrote a book about this, where you would have the opportunity to enable constitutional amendment changes without Congress's authorization. The Constitution allows us to essentially pass resolutions that will be constitutional amendments without Congress's approval. We don't need Congress to do that. We can do that as we the people, through our states. It takes 3/4 of the states to accomplish it. Again, it's a massive undertaking. And I encourage it, but I'm also wary of it. I'm cautious about it, because my concern is that moneyed interests will get involved in it, and then it'll end up being a wide open door to modifying the Constitution in ways that will ultimately not benefit Americans. So I want to look at it, and I want to explore it, and I actually want to accomplish it. I'm just telling you that we need to make sure that we go into it with our eyes wide open and not wide shut. But the alternative solution here is that we do some sort of massive peaceful civil disobedience. And guess what? You can actually do massive peaceful civil disobedience at home right now, right today. You know how you can do that? Well, for starters, you can literally go on to healthcare.gov and you can surf around. Don't register, but click on a lot of stuff and clog the website up. Don't hack it. We're not looking to do anything illegal. You're just going to surf and surf and surf and surf and surf, and you're going to click all the links that you can click, and you're going to bog the thing down. The truth is, we can lock out and shut down and kill Obamacare ourselves. We don't have to wait for a bunch of traitors in Congress to overrule a law which should never have been passed in the first place by them. I'll grant you, none of the Republicans voted for it. But that doesn't excuse them, because they've still funded it. So, since the power of the purse is one of the strongest methodologies of controlling the government and a government out of control, and the House has not seen fit to utilize that because they're either too chicken, or they're too corrupt, or they've been coerced, or they've been co-opted because the NSA's got pictures of some congressman who likes little boys or little girls, or has a problem with cocaine, and they got photographs of him with a straw up his nose, or they've got some dirty business deal he's done and proof of it in his email that they've been capturing for years. These people are corrupt, ladies and gentlemen, or they've been corrupted by the sheer magnitude of the power of their dukeship and their duchesses. They act like they are elitists who live above the rest of the peons, the peasants like us. And frankly, I don't know about you, but I am sick of it. I am tired of people who say one thing and pay attention to you only the few scant weeks before an election. And then after that, they treat you like farm product and ranchers' cattle. You're to be bought and sold like a commodity. You're to be tagged and marked. And when your usefulness has outlived itself, then you're to be culled from the herd. You see, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the real problem here. We have a Congress which completely ignores the wishes of America. Proof and case in point, you've got Claire McCaskill. 72% of Missouri said to her, "We do not want Obamacare." And she voted for it anyway. When 72% of the constituency of a state says we don't want something, how dare that legislator go ahead and vote for it anyway because her party tells her she has to? Now, I've been working on this principle called the pact, and I'm going to talk more about it in coming weeks. The idea of the pact is real simple. It's the political accountability contract and trust They're in the acronym PACT, the Pact. The Political Accountability, Contract, and Trust. And here's how it works. It's real simple. I've only got 2 minutes to explain this, but we'll be talking about it more as we move forward. Here's how it works. You have a series of 5 or 11 people around you as an elected representative. And this works whether or not you're running for city mayor, or whether you're running for city council, or whether you're running for Congress in the House and the Senate, or in the federal and state side. It doesn't make any difference. Any elected position. And here's the way it works. There are a series of contracted things that you agree to, including term limits. Because we don't need a constitutional amendment to eliminate term limits or to add term limits. We can just have you agree in advance in a contract that you're going to abide by them, that you're going to run no more than 2 times in the House and 1 time in the Senate. And you can't overlap. You can't run twice in the House and then once in the Senate. And after that, you're going to go home and retire, and you're going to go back to being whatever it was you were before. Shopkeeper, a manufacturer, a manager, a school teacher, whatever you were doing before. The simple truth is this. You pre-sign a resignation letter. And with that pre-signed resignation letter, your accountability partners can hold your feet to the fire and say, if you violate the contents of this contract, the terms in the agreement that you have made with us, then we literally just date your pre-signed resignation letter, give you 48 hours notice that we're submitting it to the press so that you can get prepared to explain why you're no longer going to represent the people, because you've betrayed them. You see, the truth is, folks, we are really, really out of time in terms of how to deal with this. And I got to tell you, if we don't move quickly, if we don't move fast, if we don't immediately recognize the danger we're in, we will have to do what Michael Cannon from the Cato Institute threw out there. In his testimony, I want you to hear it again. I'm going to read it back to you one more time. He was very clear. The senator said to him, what can we do if this president continues in this lawless fashion? And here's what he said. There is one last thing to which the people can resort if the government does not respect the restraints that the Constitution places on the government. Abraham Lincoln talked about our right to alter our government or our revolutionary right to overthrow it. That is certainly something that no one wants to contemplate. If the people come to believe that the government is no longer constrained by the laws, then they will conclude that neither are they. That is a very dangerous sort of thing for the president to do, to wantonly ignore the laws, to try to impose obligations upon people that the legislature did not approve. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't get any more blatant than that. And I'll tell you what, I'll take it back further than Abraham Lincoln. It tells us that right in our Declaration of Independence. And there's no denying what it says. It says anytime government operates outside of the restrictions of and the best interest of the people, not only do the people have a right to overthrow that government, they have an obligation and a duty to do so. Let's just make it peacefully. We'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to tackle our second topic, Obamacare security. It's causing a national crisis, and you need to be aware of what's happening around us. We'll be back in just a moment. Stick with us. You're listening to America's Voice Now.